So we're reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text number 7. I'll just read the Sanskrit. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. So Krishna is saying that there are times in the material world where dharma, spirituality, goes into decline, and adharma, heavy materialism, begins to rise and take over the planet. So at that time, he himself descends to re-establish dharma. So that time we're living in is exactly today. Today, there's a very heavy rise of adharma. And adharma means that people are acting for their own benefit and to control others for their own benefit. Dharma is spiritual consciousness where people act for the benefit of others. They care for others. But in the consciousness of adharma, you don't really care for others. You want to control them and take what belongs to them to use it for your own benefit. So right now in the world, there is a rise of adharma. So Krishna says, whenever and wherever there is a rise in adharma, he descends himself. Now, which incarnation of Krishna, which avatar of Krishna descends? Well, it's not Govinda, because he's playing his flute. He's in Goloka Vrindavan with the gopis. It's not Gopala. He's still herding the cows in the pasturing grounds and playing with his cowherd friends. But who is it? Which avatar of Krishna actually comes to annihilate adharma and re-establish dharma? So we can judge by what Krishna says.
1 second. I think there's something bleeding.
What is it? Oh.
So that dhoti doesn't spoil.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So at that point, Krishna explains what he does when he comes. Paritranaya sadhunam. He comes to protect the sadhus. And who are the sadhus? Those who are living the dharmic lifestyle and presenting the dharmic lifestyle for the benefit of others. You know, there's two camps, two types of persons, categories of persons in the material world. Those who have an adharma mentality and just want to control and have everything for themselves. And then there's the dharma category of people who care for others and want to help and benedict others. So those are the sadhus according to Krishna. Paritranaya sadhunam. He comes to protect the devotees. Vinashayad chaduskritam, and to annihilate, to destroy the miscreants, the demoniac mentality. So which incarnation, which avatar of Krishna is that? Who said that? Speak up. Everybody heard that? This is the incarnation known as Sri Narasimha Bhagwan. Sri Jayadev Goswami has written the Das Avatar Stotram, where he glorifies the 10 most auspicious avatars of the Lord who descend to this world. And Rupa Goswami has described in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita commentary that of all the avatars, there's 3 that are the most prominent. Number 1 is Sri Krishna. He comes as Sri Krishna. Number 2 is Sri Ram. And number 3 is Sri Narasimha. So he's right up there in the top 3 incarnations, avatars of the Lord. And this is something very, very special that we don't really fully appreciate or realize what it is that Narasimha does. His Leela is only to protect the devotees who are propagating and spreading Dharma, and to annihilate the miscreants who are against Dharma and are propagating adharma. So we have the famous history of Prahlad Maharaj, who as a young boy was the son of a demon king, but he was always thinking of the Lord, and his demon king couldn't tolerate that. His demon father was thinking, how can my son be worshiping God and not me, not considering that I'm the greatest? And so time and time again, he tried to convince Prahlad, a 5-year-old boy, to give up his faith and belief and love for God. But Prahlad wouldn't do it. And he would even share his realizations with his classmates. And soon everybody in that Gurukula school, they were all becoming devotees. So the teachers came to Hiranyakashipu, a demon king, and complained, said, what can we do? Your son is spoiling the consciousness of all those young boys. We're teaching them how to control people. We're teaching them politics. We're teaching them how to get the full benefit of sense gratification. But your son is teaching them to serve God. It's not our fault. They were afraid that the king would kill them. He said, it's not our fault, it's your own son. So Hiranyakashipu, he decided, what can I do? I can't control my son, so I might as well kill him, because it's an embarrassment for me. So he tried to kill Prahlad in so many different ways, 10 different ways. And each time he was protected by Lord Narasimha. So he could not be burnt in the fire. He could not be bitten by those snakes. He couldn't be trampled by the wild elephants. And when he was thrown off the cliff, the Lord caught him and saved him. So then Hiranyakashipu got very disturbed. He says, how is it that you're still alive? Well, I'm being protected by my Lord Vishnu. He said, where is this Vishnu? Oh, he's everywhere. He's everywhere? Yeah, he's omnipotent and omnipresent. So then Hiranyakashipu said, well, is he in this pillar in the palace? There was the palace has pillars. And Prahlad said, oh yes, he's in this pillar. So Hiranyakashipu struck that pillar with his fist. And then they heard a tumultuous sound that permeated the entire land. And no one had ever heard such a sound before. And all the guards and the army and everything in the palace, they were struck with fear. And Hiranyakashipu, he couldn't understand, where is this sound coming from? And so he took his sword out and he says, your God is in this pillar? Then he struck the pillar with his sword, and out came Sri Narasimha, the 8-armed form, half man, half lion, roaring. And we could see that Hiranyakashipu was terrified. But he had boons from Lord Brahma that he couldn't be killed by neither man nor beast. He couldn't be killed either inside or outside. He couldn't be killed during the day or during the night. He couldn't be killed on land or in the air. So he was feeling, okay, this is going to be the battle of my life, but I know I can't be killed, so I'll be victorious. So he fought with Lord Narasimhadev. And Lord Narasimhadev, he fulfilled all of the benedictions that Lord Brahma gave to Hiranyakashipu. Now, Hiranyakashipu was not an ordinary low-class demon like we experience today. He had tremendous Shakti, power, and he had achieved these boons by unbelievable austerity. He had performed so great an austerity that Lord Brahma came to him and said, I'll grant you your benedictions if you stop this austerity, because the whole earth is trembling. So he had great power. So all those boons that I mentioned, that Hiranyakashipu couldn't be killed because he wanted immortality. So Lord Narasimhadev appeared in a form to not only protect Prahlad, but to fulfill the benedictions of Lord Brahma, so that Lord Brahma wouldn't appear to empty promises. So he appeared not as a man or a beast, but as half man, half lion. And he fought with Hiranyakashipu as the sun was going down. And as the sun set, it was no longer day, but night had not yet come, so he grabbed him. And he went to the entrance of the palace door. So he wasn't inside, nor was he outside. And he put him on his lap. He sat in Padmasana, Yoga Asana. So he wasn't killed in the air or on the land, but he was on the lap. And Lord Narasimhadev annihilated this demon. So he wasn't killed by any weapons, but by the claws. So he fulfilled all the boons of Lord Brahma and killed this demon. And he was very, very angry. He was so angry. Now, the Lord doesn't have to be angry. The Lord is so powerful, he can, with a smile and with his little finger, he can destroy anybody. But he was very, very angry because nobody had ever tried to protect Prahlad the 10 times that he was tortured, tried to be killed. No one came to his rescue. So Lord Narasimhadev was angry. Brahma never came to protect Prahlad. Shiva never came to protect Prahlad. Nobody came. So he was so angry. And after he killed Hiranyakashipu, he walked back to the throne and sat down on the throne. And Prahlad Maharaj came forward with a garland to garland him. And everyone in the palace was terrified by the anger. But this 5-year-old boy, he wasn't terrified because he had full knowledge. This is my Lord. I love him. He loves me. We have an eternal relationship. So he came with a garland and garlanded the Lord in his narasimha form. And the Lord softened and his smile came to his face. He was touched by the love of this young boy. So he said to Prahlad, he said, tell me what benediction you want. I will fulfill any desire that you have. And he said, Prahlad said, I don't have any desires for myself. I have my relationship with you, and that is completely satisfying. But if you want to give me a benediction, I would like to benedict my father, who is so demoniac, that somehow or other you give him your mercy, that he will come to be a servant of the Lord. So in this way, Prahlad Maharaj was thinking for the benefit of others. So this happened thousands of years ago. Now let's come to the present. Srila Prabhupada arrived in America in 1965 actually, September. And then by 1966, 1967, he began to spread his movement all over the world. So there were many temples in the beginning in America. So there was one temple called New Vrindavan. And in the temple of New Vrindavan, the temple president, his name was Dharmatma Prabhu. And he had a son. His son's name was Dhruva. And when Dhruva was 5 years old, he was put into the Gurukula in New Vrindavan. And there he heard the story of Prahlad and Narasimha Dev. And he was so charmed, and he just fell in love with Prahlad. Now in that temple of New Vrindavan, among the murtis that were there was a murti of Sri Narasimha. So one day, Dhruva approached his father and said, I would like to do puja to Sri Narasimha. Do you mind if I can do that every day? So he said, okay, you can do it. You know, father has so much love for his son. And because he was temple president, no one in the temple could argue. So little boy Dhruva began to do puja for Narasimha. And he did it every day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And in this way, he was re-establishing and firming up his connection with Narasimha until he became a young man. And now he's a young man, 20 years old, and he has a great desire to go to India, to the sacred place of Ahovalam, where Narasimha appeared to protect Prahlad and to destroy his demon father. So he collected the funds and he bought a ticket to India. And then he had to find Ahovalam. It's a very remote holy place in South India. But he arrived there and he was so happy. And all the sadhus there, the pujaris, the pandits, they were so happy to see him. And they were amazed at how much affection and love he had for Lord Narasimhadev. He asked so many questions and everything, and they were so pleased with him. So after about a week, he casually mentioned, are there any other Narasimha temples that I can visit here now that I'm in India? He had come with his friend Balaram, the two of them had come. And the pujaris and the sadhus said, other temples of Narasimha? This is the original temple of Narasimha. You forget about any other temples. This is the temple. You're in the right place, right here, right now. Don't even think of other temples. So that night he was discussing with Balaram and he said, I can't believe there's only one temple of Lord Narasimhadev in all of India. There must be more. We have to go in search of them and find them. So he spent the next 15 years, he and Balaram, traveling to the most remote areas in India, through jungles, to mountain tops, and down rivers to inaccessible places where there are no roads, in search of temples of Lord Narasimhadev. And he discovered 1,300 lost temples of Narasimhadev. These were lost. And Balaram was there with him. He was a photographer and he took photos of everything. Kishori, where are you? She's not here. She's supposed to be here to be part of this presentation.
Do you want me to hold the books for you?
Yeah. Please call Kishori, tell her to come. Just one. So, a couple of years ago, he published this book. It's a coffee table book. It's very heavy, weighs 2.5 kilos. That's because it's printed on the finest top grade paper in full color. Every page is in full color. And all the the most important of these 1,300 lost temples and the deities there. All the photographs are here, and how he found the temples, who he met there, the whole story of his 15 years of discovering the lost temples is in this book, Narasimha, The Lost Temples. So we're presenting this book. My wife and I have been traveling around India and distributing this book in various temples, and we've had a tremendous response. Because in India, people know and understand Lord Narasimha, that he protects the devotees, and he destroys the adharmic mentality of the demoniac people. So they know him. But in the West, nobody knows Lord Narasimha Dev. Nobody knows that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about Narasimha Dev as his avatar to protect the devotees and annihilate the miscreants. People don't know this. So we just flew in from India. This is our first stop here in Europe, and we're doing a tour of Europe and presenting this book that Dhruva published with all these photos. Now, if you notice on the cover here, this one photo of Lord Narasimha Dev, he's sitting in Padmasana. In India, Lord Narasimha is known as Yoga Narasimha. We don't know him as Yoga Narasimha, but in India, especially South India, they know him as Yoga Narasimha. Because if you go to any temple in India, the deities are always standing. Is it not?
Yeah.
You've been to temples in India? Even temples in the West here. The deities are always standing. But here, Lord Narasimha Dev, he sits in Padmasana. He's therefore called Yoga Narasimha. So, this is the first book. This is volume 1 of the 3 volumes that Dhruva Das is going to publish. And the second book is called Lord Narasimha, the God of Yoga. Because he's known as Yoga Narasimha, because not only did he kill Hiranyakashipu while in Yoga Asana, but his murtis are always in Yoga Asana. And it's said in the Shastra that Lord Narasimha brought the yoga system with him and taught it to Prahlad. And Prahlad taught it, and it went down through the ages. Of course, the grandson of Prahlad is Bali Maharaj, who had encounters with Vaman Avatar. So you see that even though this demon, Hiranyakashipu, was so demoniac, but he had a pure devotee son and a pure devotee great-grandson. Of the 12 Mahajans mentioned in the Shastra, one of them is Prahlad Maharaj, the other is Bali Maharaj. 2 great Mahajans from the family of Lord Narasimha. It's amazing when you think about it. So the second book is called Lord Narasimha, the God of Yoga, which he's working on now, Dhruva. He's in South India, and he has a camera crew. He's filming the temples. This is going to be a documentary series. And this documentary series, how the idea came, let me tell you that story. That during the 15 years that Dhruva was traveling throughout India and going to the different temples, he would find relics and artifacts in each temple of Lord Narasimha Dev, and he would collect them. And he saved them, and he brought them to his home back to America. So he had this huge collection of Lord Narasimha Dev artifacts and relics and murtis. So then he discovered there's a museum in Belgium and a branch in Italy called the Museum of the Sacred Arts. So he flew to Belgium, went to see the person in charge of the Museum for Sacred Arts, explained, he showed him this book, explained everything, telling him I have all these artifacts and everything. I would donate them to your museum for an exhibit. Would you like to do an exhibit? They said, this is fantastic. We'd love to do an exhibit. He was overjoyed. But then the curator said, but why just our museum? We can have this exhibit go on tour. Dhruva said, really? Oh yeah, it happens all the time. I can call the British Museum, I can call the Louvre in Paris, I can call the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Let's see if they're interested. So the curator called these museums, and they were all interested. If you have such an exhibit, yes, we would be very happy to have it. Come to our museum. Now, a museum is a place where thousands of people go regularly, tourists especially, to see our history. So thousands of people are going to see the history of Lord Narasimha when they go to the most famous museums in the world, the Louvre in Paris, British Museum in London, the Metropolitan Museum in New York. So then the curator at the Museum of Sacred Art said, you know, along with this, you need also a documentary because people like to sit and see the whole story. So he said, I'll do it. So he called up Kishori and he said, Kishori, I know that you're very good at fundraising. Could you please help me? And he explained the whole project and Kishori said, yes, I'll do it. And when she said, yes, she'll do it, I said, okay, I'll also do it. And so we collected a huge amount of money in India, which we gave to him, so that now he's doing that documentary. He's going to the most important temples, interviewing the pujaris, the sadhus there, and giving the whole story, all about Lord Narasimha, how he appeared, how he's the god of yoga, how he brought the yoga system to this earth. Now, many people who practice yoga, they associate the yoga practice with Patanjali. But Patanjali himself stated in his own writings that he decided to codify and write down the yoga practice in sutras because he feared that it may get lost. So the yoga practice was extant before Patanjali, but he wrote it down in sutras so that it wouldn't get lost, because it was only being handed down in those early years from guru to disciple, like that, orally. But there was no written record. So Patanjali established the written record. So of course Patanjali came thousands of years later after Prahlad, but this teaching has gone down from guru to disciple, guru to disciple, guru to disciple, and now Patanjali has codified it. And one of the things that Patanjali stressed in his Yoga Sutras, one of the most important things is Ishvara, the dedication and service to Ishvara. So we all know, who study Bhakti Yoga Sutras and the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, that Ishvara refers to the Supreme God, who is the supreme controller of everything. Ishvara Parama Krishna. There's so many Ishvaras, but the Parameshwar is Krishna. He's the controller of all other controllers. Satchidananda Vigraha, and he's eternally full of knowledge, full of bliss in its spiritual form. Anadi, he's beginningless. But when he begins everything and creates this material world, then Anadi Adi Govinda, as Govinda, he blows his flute, and that sound of the flute enters into the ear of Lord Brahma and initiates him and gives him all the knowledge how to create the Srishti, how to create the material universe. So, therefore, Krishna is Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of all other causes. He is the prime cause of all other causes. So that's Ishwar, Parameshwar, Krishna. But nowadays in Kali Yuga, people don't know the meaning of Ishwara. And I've looked up different translations of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and I've come across the most ridiculous definitions of Ishwara, especially from the Mayavadi groups who don't accept God. They come up with the most ridiculous things. They have to comment on it because Patanjali stresses the importance of it, but they don't want to say it refers to God because they don't believe in God. But anyway, we want to correct that now with this exhibit that will travel to the different museums along with the second volume, Lord Narasimha, the God of Yoga. So by distributing this volume, the first volume, Lord Narasimha, the lost temples, all the money that people can contribute, and we give them a book, of course, goes to finance the second volume and the documentary and everything, so that we can have a museum exhibit traveling to the most important museums around the world. Kishori, you want to say something?
Yeah, well, this is supposed to be a fundraise, so
We need to give you a microphone. There's one there. Here, take this.
It's okay. Can you drink? So, as Prabhu said, this is a fundraise for the second volume of this amazing book. It's going to be called The God of Yoga. So this is a fundraise for the second volume of this book. It's going to call Narasimha, the God of Yoga.
Maybe there's a speaker behind you.
Okay.
Move this way.
This way?
Yeah.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, you get feedback.
I am getting lots of feedback.
Positive.
So, the special thing about this book is that it's going to be a great contribution, not only to the world of Vaishnavas, but also it will unify us to the whole yoga community, which is huge around the world, as all of you know. And what unifies us is that we're presenting Lord Narasimha as the God of Yoga, the incarnation of God who brought yoga to this planet. He not only is a divine protector of all of us, Narasimha, we all know, we take shelter of him to protect us and to remove obstacles and all negativity, but also he brought the whole yoga system with him, which takes you on a whole spiritual journey. It's not just coming to protect you, but also to take you to samadhi through the whole yoga system. Now, the beauty is that Lord Narasimha, when he appeared, obviously he came to save this child from all the torture and all the horrible treatment that he was getting from his own father. And the yoga system, it really, when he asked Prahlad what he wanted, Prahlad was a true yogi. He had no grudges to his father. That's like one of the signs that you are a real yogi and devotee. Like there's no sign of vengeance or like, oh, they did wrong to me, they're horrible, like I want justice. It was more like just bless him, that he's freed from this demoniac nature. So the yoga existed a little bit prior to Narasimha, but not exactly as yoga. The Asuras, they're known for getting boons from either Lord Shiva or Brahma. We all know that they can do unbelievable tapasya, and they can control their life airs, and they can do like unbelievable things with their body, with their breath, to attain a specific boon. And this is all across the Asuric, the Asuras, which are, as you all know, Asuras and demigods are brothers and sisters. It's not like they're against each other. They all come from the same creator, which is Vishnu, Brahma, and then, there's the Sapta Rishis, and then they give birth to all these different sorts of living entities. And the Asuras and the demigods are brothers and sisters. Now, the asuras, believe it or not, are higher than human beings in the whole grand scheme of things.
Hierarchy.
In the hierarchy, yeah, like we human beings, we have no Shakti. The only Shakti that human beings have is to pray to God, and through that faith and through that devotion that we can get some boons and benedictions. But the asuras, they actually have Shakti. The demigods actually have Shakti. So the asuras were always praying to conquer Vishnu. Somehow they have this rasa. This material world would not exist without the asuras. That's why we're here. Like if we were in Goloka, there's no need for asuras. But in this realm of existence where we live, there's the need of duality so that we can choose the right path. So the asuras do all this tapasya. That's Asuric tradition. So the fact that Prahlad is an asura as well, and being an asura doesn't mean that you're a bad guy.
You mean from the family of Asuras?
Yeah, he is an asura by birth. But that doesn't mean that you cannot be a devotee. So this kid was born from Hiranyakashipu and his mother Asura family, but he has all this devotion to Vishnu. And his father is like so upset, like how dare you do this to our family? He's our enemy. So like you all know the story. He gets tortured in all these different ways. And Narasimha Dev is furious. He appears to kill this demon who is torturing this kid. And then after he kills this demon Hiranyakashipu, he is like still so angry. Nobody in like the universe can stop this anger. And everybody's freaking out. Like Lakshmi Devi cannot help. Like, the dead Brahma, Vishnu, they can do anything. And like they're all trembling and like what's happening? Who is going to appease Lord Narasimha Dev? And they said, Prahlad, you should go to him. So it was through yoga that Lord Narasimha Dev is able to calm down and become Shanti, Yoga Nisimha. So then he teaches Prahlad all the science of yoga, and they travel all over India in different places, and that's why in India you see all these deities of Yoga Nrisimha. But what's amazing is that he takes the whole Asuric tradition of tapasya to get these boosts and turns it into a spiritual thing, yoga. How to use the mind and the senses to attain the supreme, to attain samadhi, to have this yoga, this union with God, which is the beauty of like this whole Narasimha incarnation. Now, all of you know yoga in the modern world, in the Western world, is probably the most popular form of spirituality. Most people take it as just exercise, but it's actually a spiritual practice. So this second book of Narasimha, the god of yoga, is going to establish that connection, that it was Narasimha who brought all this yoga system to this planet, who not only is our divine protector, but also is taking us on a spiritual path to purify our consciousness and have this, union bhakti with him. So these books are going to be, obviously, once that whole museum thing is done, probably for the beginning of next year, the Louvre, the Metropolitan Museum, the British Museum, and other museums like very prominent. This is unprecedented in the history of Krishna consciousness. It has to have that kind of reach to like this new market, and to present now Narasimha as the god of yoga, as the incarnation who unifies us with the world yoga community at large. This is huge. So we are requesting your help in whichever way that you can help to make this a reality. Dhruva is right now traveling all over India, documenting for the second volume. And the reason why we are supporting him is because this is too much work to do for one man alone. I mean, he already gave most of his life for documenting the lost temples, which in itself is like a huge accomplishment. He has found over 1,300 temples all over India, and it took him 18 years to publish this book, just to, document these places for you to have it in one book. Like, he has to go to places where, like, sometimes cars cannot take you, and there's like, Narasimha is a lion after all. He likes to be isolated. He likes mountains. He likes caves. He likes to be where he's off the beaten path. So he has traveled all over India to find these temples for you. to have it here in this book, Narasimha, the Lost Temples. And with the second volume, we're going to have a documentary as well as this new revelation that is going to establish Narasimha as the god of yoga. So there's many ways that you can contribute. You can either purchase a book from us. Obviously, we have limited copies because just the size of the book. So what we can do is we can take orders. Whoever can get a book from us, just do it as soon as you can. And those of you who are interested in having the book, we can ship it to you. And I'll take your orders. So that's one way that you can contribute. You can order either the first volume or the second volume. You can also pre-order the second volume. Or if you just would like to give a donation, we are extremely grateful to you, because every way that you can contribute and donate to this project makes it a reality. We are going to do some amazing preaching all over the world with this book. And we are also getting connected to the Prime Minister of India, Modi, because obviously he's the greater exponent of yoga. So we're just reaching out to different places, and it's going to be so wonderful for you to go to these amazing museums and see this book sold at the exhibits of Lord Narasimha with a full page of Srila Prabhupada. And obviously everybody who contributes with a donation, you guys will be recognizing the book as well. So thank you so much. I just thank you in advance for any help that you can give us. It's greatly, greatly appreciated, and we're very, very grateful.
So now I'm going to share a story that when we were in India, we were told, Kishori and I were told about a particular temple that is the most far out, amazing place of Lord Nrsingadev worship. So they told us where the place was. We had some friends that lived near there. So we flew into Hyderabad, we stayed and did some programs there, and they said it's only a 2-hour drive from here, north, on the border between, is now Telangana and the northern part of Karnataka. I forget the name of the area. But so we arrived there, and we didn't really see anything that looked like a temple, but there were signs saying Lord Nrsingadev. So we went forward and we asked a person who dressed in a dhoti, looked like a sadhu, said, where can we take darshan of Lord Nrsinga? He says, you see that cave there? You have to go in that cave. But the water is up to your chest. And you have to walk 100 meters into the cave, chest-high water. Are you prepared to do that? So we thought, well, we came all this way. How can we not? How can we not go see Lord Nrsingadev? He's knocking. Hello, come and see me. So we entered the cave, and the water was up to our chest, and we're going through this cave, and the cave is full of bats. In German, that's Fledermaus, no? And they're flying over our heads. And the water is full of the bat droppings. It wasn't very clean. But we saw other people coming the opposite way. They had taken their darshan already of Lord Nrsingadev, so we kept on. So we go for about 100 meters and we turn right. And then just ahead, we see the altar. And there's a pujari there. And when the pujari sees us, he's, come, please come. Especially to see Kishori, a young Western woman who'd never ever come, first one ever to come to see Lord Nrsingadev. So he said, come and sit with me here on the altar. So we both sat there. And then he was explaining to us about Lord Nrsingadev, how this was a self-manifested deity of Lord Nrsinga. And as people were coming to take darshan, he would explain to them that look how devoted these people are, coming from America and Europe to take darshan of Lord Nrsingadev. And we were told that there was one wedding party. One husband and wife were getting married, and they wanted to be married in front of Lord Nrsingadev. So in their wedding outfits, they waded through the water, chest high deep, to say their vows, their wedding vows in front of the Lord. So this is the type of devotion that we see in India for the Lord Narasimhadev. We visited a few other temples of Lord Narasimhadev, and they were in caves, and they were not like an opulent temple. And even we went to the top of one mountain, and there was the Melkote. The name of the place is Melkote, and there are steps. You walk up about 400 or 500 steps to get to the top, and there's a temple there. And so when we arrived at the top, then there was a line of people. So we got in line, and we came around to take darshan. And when the pujaris saw us, they said to me, Kishori and I, you move over and just wait here, let the other people pass. So we said, okay. So then they let all the other people pass, and then there was no more people, and then they opened up the altar for us and said, you can come right inside and sit right in front of Lord Narasimhadev. I don't know why they did that for us, but it was like a blessing. It was an amazing blessing. And of course, Lord Narasimha is sitting in Padmasana. He's not standing like most deities. He's Yoga Narasimha. So we've had a little experience of visiting these Narasimha temples. And we realized that Lord Narasimha's Leela is to protect the devotees, just like here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of dharma, I appear millennium after millennium, yuge yuge, yuga after yuga. So we realize that Lord Narasimhadev is the avatar of Sri Krishna, that is stated right here in Bhagavad Gita. Paritranaya sadhanam, he protected the devotees, especially Prahlad Maharaj. Vinashaya chaduskritam, and he destroyed Hiranyakashipu, the demon. So in this way, we were thinking that if Lord Narasimhadev is protecting us, what are we doing for him? I began to think like that. It's all right to receive benediction from someone, but how am I going to reciprocate? Because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajam yaham. As you approach me, I reciprocate accordingly. So the spiritual activities of the Bhakti Yoga is reciprocation. We can't just receive, and not reciprocate. So I like to give this nice example. A mother has a child, and the child is helpless, and the mother's doing everything for the child, feeding the child, clothing the child, teaching him everything. And then one day, the child comes and with a rose or a flower and says, oh, Mommy, I want to give you something for you. And her heart melts because now there's reciprocation. So reciprocation, that's the beauty of loving exchanges. So that's why Kishori and I, we want to reciprocate with Lord Narasimhadev. He's protecting us. So we decided that let's do this. Let's just dedicate ourselves to serving Lord Narasimhadev. And if you'd have said to me last year that in 2022 you'll be traveling around the world glorifying Lord Narasimhadev, I would have said to you, but I don't know anything about Lord Narasimhadev. And it was true. But now he's given us so much realization and he's empowering us to serve him. So we're just coming to share with you. Because one thing that Prabhupada taught me, he told me personally in a private darshan I had with him in Sri Vrindavan Dham in November 1976. It was a wonderful darshan we had. It was very intimate. We had a real connection. And then at the end of it, Prabhupada said, so wherever you go and whomsoever you meet, you share with them the knowledge you've received from me in Parampara. And you will be benefited and they will be benefited. So Prabhupada used the word share. He didn't say go preach to people. He said share what you have understood. Share the knowledge you've received from me. So that's what I've been doing ever since 1976, traveling and sharing what Prabhupada gave to me and sharing with you. So we're here because my seva, as Prabhupada instructed, is to share. So are there any questions on anything that you've heard today? Any questions for me or for Kishori? Yes.
Say the demigods and the asuras are on the same level, yeah? You say, no? And Lord Chingadev or Lord Chaitanya are far away, beyond, no? Transcendental. Can you say a little more to that subject?
It's a question about.
Stand away from the.
It's a question about. She's asking about the demigods and the asuras being on the same level. Yes, they're brothers and sisters. They were created by Vishnu. They come from the line of Vishnu, Brahma, Saptarishis, and then this Muni has his descendants through different lines.
Brahma creates the living entities, not Vishnu.
Well, from Vishnu comes Brahma.
Let me explain this, Kishori. Being an asura or being a demon is based on your mentality. I can become a demon tomorrow if all of a sudden I reject the Lord and I start acting in a horrible way. But I don't. But I will say that in the beginning, before I met my spiritual master, I sort of had demoniac tendencies. I was eating non-veg food, I was taking intoxication, I was doing everything that asuras do. But by the mercy of my spiritual master, I became a devotee. So all living entities can either become a sura, a devotee, or an asura, a non-devotee. You chose to be a devotee. Someone else chose, let's say, I'm not going to mention their names, but someone else chose to be a non-devotee.
Well, however, yes, Vishnu is beyond all of them.
Yeah, Ashura is demoniac, okay, but a half god, he has good qualities.
Yes.
But in spite of it, it's the same like Asura.
Who?
The half god, the demigod. The demigod has.
No. I think that it's a misunderstanding. Krishna created the material world for our pleasure, because we wanted to enjoy in this kind of existence. So this material world is based on duality. But God, like when you say, like Lord Shiva or Brahma, they're partial to asuras or demigods. That's why they give them boons, because they created them. God can never go against his creation. He has to take care of everyone. However, Vishnu is Sattva Guna. He's transcendental. He's God beyond this material world, beyond the duality in which we live. He's the eternal Lord. So in this world, the asuras were created to play that role of enmity, to create this duality so that we can choose a path that gives us responsibility for our actions. We are given everything on a silver platter. You want this? This is what you get. You want that? This is what you get.
Also Shiva, Brahma are asuras, and Vishnu, he corresponds to Shingadev or Lord Chaitanya.
Yes, of course.
May I say?
Yes?
So what's okay? I'm so small, you see, that's why I should stand up. Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for the lecture, for Kirtan, for your mission. Because I'm also trying to distribute books. Yes, it's not an easy job. Yes, and what I get from Lord Nishinkadev, yes, here we don't have Lord Nishinkadev in our temple. We have Gauradesh, and I'm not such a great when I coming to the farm, where Lord Nishimpada was sitting and absolutely happy keeping Prahlad Maharaj on his lap, yeah, then I'm absolutely conquered by him. I can't forget Gauradesh. I'm very sorry, please, yes. And because he is so, how to say, he is so positively powerful for me, yes. But distributing books, we very often we are falling for him. Oh, please help, please help, please help, please help, please help, yes. And he helps. He defends us from this demonic, from this impersonal influence from outside, what he's doing. It is not moment, one word. It is not only when I just have an injury or something, oh please help me, that is not auto, a car can't crash, no, please help. Mostly he helps, he protects us from this demonic Ashura's influence, because we are dual, what you have said, yes. And if we are praying to him, we are defended. We are taking one side of being pious, one side of serving Krishna, really. And that's why I want to say that I want to take this book, because I find this book just a very rare.
It was 18 years in the making. He gave his life for all of you to have this knowledge. You know, most of us will go to some of these places, perhaps a handful of them, but
one moment. If we are not supporting such missions, such movements, so what we are
What's the
doing?
point
Yes.
she's making?
Because
Sure.
that is our spiritual job, to support each other, to help each other in these missions. Because all the missions have only one, one gati, one destination. That is Krishna. That's what you have to pleasure Krishna.
thank you so much.
To pleasure devotees, to pleasure sadhus, to pleasure Guru.
I am very grateful for your comment. And yes, you know, we were told,
That's what I wanted to say.
Keshava Prabhu told me, and also Nilamadava Prabhu, that you guys were the most magnanimous temple in all of Europe, supporting the Mayapur temple. And we are coming to you to ask for your help and contribution again. But this time for Lord Narasimha, which, as you know, the world right now is crazy. We just went through a few years of pandemic, and now there's a war going on in Ukraine. And if there is one incarnation that puts a stop to all the nonsense, that's Narasimha. So let's just all come together for offering some service to him, and let's do it powerfully. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Mataji, thank you so much for the beautiful glorification of Lord Narasimha. It's not a question, but rather a request. Maybe if you can sing the Narasimha Aarti, since we are...
Yes, of course. Narasimha prayers.
Okay, very good.
Good. Thank you.
So let me just explain something. We're going to chant the prayers to Lord Narasimhadev. Now, when did Srila Prabhupada introduce these prayers to the Lord Narasimhadev? Well, in 1966, in July, he founded the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and he introduced the Maha Mantra. That's all he introduced, was the Maha Mantra. There were no pranam mantras, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, there weren't no other bhajans, just the devotees would only chant the Maha Mantra for 1 year. Then in 1967, he introduced the Narasimha prayers. It was the second mantra that he introduced. First the Maha Mantra, second the Narasimha prayers. He said, for protection. So you chant that to protect your spiritual master and to protect yourselves. The third mantra that he introduced was the Panchatattva mantra. When he in 1967, he got ill in September and he went back to India. He came back in January 1968, and then he introduced the Panchatattva mantra. And then later in 1968, he introduced the pranam mantras, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, like that. So we see that the Narasimha mantra was second after the Maha mantra. We also read about Rupa Goswami saying out of all the avatars, Krishna, Ram, then Narasimha. So I never realized how important Lord Narasimha was for devotees. So this is just a realization that has come to me within the last year. Like I said earlier, a year ago, if you'd asked me, if you'd have told me I'd be traveling the world discussing Lord Narasimha, I would have said, I don't know anything about him, which was true because I didn't think about it. I didn't do the research. I didn't study it. But once I did and discovered what I now know, then it made such a difference in my life. That Narasimha has protected me all these years and I've never done anything in reciprocation.